Hello, my name is Joe, and welcome to my channel. Today I want to make a video not about a book reaction, but a movie reaction. Of course, this channel is titled Joe's Book and Movie Corner. It lives, I think, comfortably on Booktube, but every once in a while we're going to talk about cinema. And today I want to talk about a movie I saw earlier this week, and it is Kevin Costner's latest film, Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1. I'm pretty busy in life right now. A lot of my free time, I'm actually taking an online class right now. It's taking up a lot of time where I normally would go spend, driving to the movie theater. So I don't see a lot of movies in the theater currently, but I did see this movie. I wanted to watch it because, we just finished up June on the Range 2024. I had a lot of fun with Westerns. I'm actually in a Western movie kick currently. I've actually ordered a bunch of Anthony Mann, Jimmy Stewart Westerns that I've never seen. I'm really excited to dive in. And, right in the middle of this Western movie came out by Kevin Costner. I've enjoyed Dances with Wolves. I thought Open Range was okay. I enjoyed his Wyatt Earp movie. So I'm excited to see this latest Western. I have not seen Yellowstone, the TV show. But I was excited to go see this. Long story short, and I will tell you why, this movie was not good. This was a bad movie. And it was kind of disappointing. I will, and I'll explain this soon, but there are interesting aspects to this movie. And you might think, okay, well, there's good here. Maybe it's a diamond in the rough. It is not. To give an example of a movie that I would consider a diamond in the rough, a movie, okay, if you look past its bad aspects, there's a good movie in here. I want to switch genres for a minute, so please bear with me. Stick with me. And I want to talk briefly about the movie The Burning. This is a 80s slasher movie. Movies can be broken up generally into 3 acts. The first act of The Burning it's fine, whatever. It's just set up. The third act of The Burning is not good. It is bad. I find it tensionless, boring. And so when you finish the movie, you finish on the third act. And after you leave your theater, or, you turn the lights back on in your living room, your first impression is, that wasn't very good. What a shame. And it's a shame because as you think about your experience with The Burning, you realize that the middle act, the second act of the film, was a masterpiece. The second act of The Burning is amazing. It is about a group of camp counselors, summer camp campers, children. They go off on a river trip by themselves to go camp a night out downriver. They lose their boats in the middle of the night. They're in a bad situation. They're cut off in the middle of the woods. This is a situation that actually frightens me very much. And instead of losing their heads, they work together as a team to try to overcome their bad situation. And they form a plan to send some kids back down the river on a raft to go get help. It's a good plan. You enjoy seeing characters work together with intelligence. Unfortunately for them, that there is a slasher serial killer in the woods that then disrupts that good plan. And it culminates in this amazing sequence filled with tension and suspense, excellent editing, and a scene that ends in very creative, bloody violence with amazing editing. And it's really, really good and really well done. And then it follows the third act, which is kind of poor, and it ends on kind of a note. Oh well. So that's a movie, especially if you're interested in slashers. It's a movie that's a diamond in the rough. Yes, overall, it might be bad, but if you chip away the ugly rock, there's a diamond in that center. It is absolutely worth watching. And if you watch it for that diamond, you're going to love it. It's great. Even if in total, maybe it's not that great. There's a diamond there. So, thank you for bearing with me. We go back to Horizon. Is it a diamond in the rough? There are good aspects to this movie. There's, for example, the things that I liked about it. The costumes were excellent. The sets amazing. The scenery, very pretty. It's not well shot. I'll get to that later. Some people say it's well shot. It's not. But the scenery is very good. And also, just there are little acting moments that I think are probably good. So each of these moments, I'm going to compare them to little bits of shiny, pretty quartz. You know, we have a rock. It's a bad movie. It's an ugly rock. But sprinkled throughout it are little bits of very pleasant-looking pieces of quartz. And is quartz diamond? It is not. So you put those quartz pieces together. It does not make a diamond in the rough. It's quartz in an ugly rock. So that's how I would describe this movie. So it's not a diamond in the rough. And I just to tell you, to go into greater detail about the bad, what specifically make this movie bad. What is it about? It starts off with this settlement town called Horizon that is, in the beginning of the movie, it is attacked by a group of Apache. It's the Apache stopping expansion. And then the story then fragments from there into maybe 4 or 5 different groups and different stories. Some of them fragment away from that prologue sequence. Some other stories start out way elsewhere, actually in Wyoming, I think. And those stories fragment. And I know that this is a series, and all of these 4 or 5 different groups and different stories are eventually all going to converge, probably in the final movie. And while that might sound like an interesting idea, it does not make for an enjoyable viewing experience as a singular film. What happens, the experience of this movie is we stick with one group, and maybe as we start to get invested with this group emotionally, that emotional attachment is abruptly cut off as we switch to another group. Maybe it's tangentially related, but the journey, even if they are related character-wise to that previous group, the story that's happening to that group is not related really to this story. So now we have to remember, okay, what was going on with this group of characters now? I have no emotional connection because the last time I saw them was like 4 different scenes ago. And then we cut off to group number C, or letter C, sorry. No emotional attachment. And by the time we get, back down to group A, we've kind of emotionally stopped caring about them. And that pattern repeats itself. And then the movie just ends. There's no cohesive story that all these groups are kind of revolving around. And to compare it to maybe the first movie in a saga, let's compare it to Fellowship of the Ring. That movie ends basically on a to be continued note. We know that the overall story is not over, but as a singular narrative, it works. You can watch that movie and get a beginning, middle, and end with this kind of one group, and it's a satisfying experience. Yes, at the end it ends with, okay, to be continued. There's more to the overall story, but it has its own story that works as a film. Back to the Future Part 2 is another example. That movie, although I think it's the worst Back to the Future movie in my opinion, that movie works as it has its own story, and then ends on a cliffhanger of, hey, next time on Back to the Future, this is what's going to happen. But the second movie works as its own narrative. Horizon and American Saga does not function like that. It should have been a television show. Modern TV, and I have a problem with modern TV for doing this. Modern TV will very often have multiple groups that don't have very much to do with each other on their own little journeys. But it works better because they're smaller, usually hour-long pieces instead of 1 3-hour mess. So I don't like that aspect about modern television, but it works better in modern television. It does not work, in my opinion, in a 3-hour feature film. It does not work. Another aspect in the movie that I want to talk about is many people online, you might say, well, it's not a very good movie, but it's beautifully shot. As I've already mentioned, it is not beautifully shot. Yes, the sets are good. Yes, the scenery is often very pretty. And the costumes are very good. It has good visual elements to it, but it is not well shot. With the scenery, for example, I mean, if you're shooting in beautiful scenery, yeah, a broken clock is right twice a day. Eventually, you're going to get a pretty image. But the movie overall is not competently shot. It is shot like a mediocre television show. The lighting itself is serviceable. You know, I mean, you might consider it competent. But many of the dialogue scenes, they're shot, I call it, this is probably not a real movie term, but I think of it as shooting defensively. Meaning you're just getting coverage. You're just getting the scene, you know, you're capturing the performance in a not very creative way just to capture the dialogue. And that's what the movie feels like. It's not creatively shot. Yeah, maybe every once in a while you get a pretty picture, but it's not good. I just watched the other day John Ford's The Searchers. That's a well-shot movie. Horizon and American Saga is not, unfortunately. I wish it were. Another aspect of the movie is certain, especially the Kevin Costner story, certain stories just don't really make sense. If maybe Kevin Costner had picked one of these stories and made one movie about each story, we would have had a good movie. Because he would have maybe you'd taken a longer time shooting with these characters. You could have shot it better. You could have refined the performances better. A lot of the kind of secondary character performances are cheesy, corny, poor. You could have refined it if you just picked one story. And we could have edited it better, and some of these stories would have made sense. For example, the Kevin Costner portion of the story. I won't go into great detail. I don't want to bore you with the plot points or the story points of what's going on with Kevin Costner's character. But there's one scene in particular that's decent. It's where a villain character is harassing Kevin Costner as they're walking up this hill. It's kind of an interesting scene. Visually, it is a little interesting. There's a good set behind them. There is some tension being built. You know it's a character harassing our hero of this portion of the story, and you know it's going to end in violence. The problem is, and why ultimately this particular scene fails, and the scene is in the trailer, I don't know what the character's motivations are. I don't know why the villain is harassing Kevin. What is their relationship? Why is he harassing him? Why is he clearly building the tension that everyone knows is going to end in violence? Why? It doesn't make any sense. The backstory is if it was explained, it was explained so many scenes ago and so many different, remember we're with this group A, then B, then C, then D, then back to A. It's so many of those cycles ago that if there's any backstory, you've already forgotten it. So there's no tension in the scene. The scene, it's a good idea, but it does not ring true. It seems false. So when the violence happens, though it might be well shot, there might be some good moments, ultimately it falls flat. It like falls in this uncanny valley of this feels weird and false and cheap. Another scene is a scene with this group of Apache hunters trying to get revenge on what happened in the prologue sequence to the town Horizon. And we see this little boy buying with this group. He buys these dual pistols, and there's this poor native guy is trying to do a trade in this trading post, and this group of jerks starts harassing this guy, and they kind of set up a duel, and you think, wow, that actually seems tense, and it has potential to be tense. But there's aspects to the scene that, again, what's their motivation? The motivation doesn't quite make sense. There's a decent character that tells the native guy, he tells him in his own language, hey, just don't react. It's a game. It's just a test for this kid. And yet they give the kid live rounds, tell him to point the gun at the guy, at the native guy, and they tell him, you can kill him, do it. You know, they're going to duel. But they're like, oh, don't worry, it's just a game. Well, how is it a game? He's got live rounds. This doesn't make sense. There's a bunch of little scenes like this where it should be tense, it should be well done, but there's either the writing doesn't quite make sense or there's a cheapness to it. It's not well shot, where it's a tense scene just falls flat on its face. And it just happens again and again in this movie. And also, since we don't have an emotional connection with each of these groups because we keep changing the channel in the movie, it helps it not to work. So again, I could keep rambling. You know, I've gone on for almost 15 minutes here. I could keep rambling about this movie. So it's bad. And it's not a case of it being a diamond in the rough. However, I find it fascinating. It's fascinating in its badness. I get a lot of enjoyment thinking about how poorly made this movie is. It's not a case where it's so bad that it's good. Often that's said about kind of campy movies. And by the way, I don't ever find a movie so bad that it's good. You know, if we're talking about a campy movie, oh, it's so campy, it's so bad, it's good. No, it's good in spite of its campiness. For an example of that would be maybe the original Star Trek series. There's a lot of camp to the original Star Trek, but it's good in spite of its camp. At least that's my outlook on it. Again, on a brief another tangent, there is one movie, there's a Bela Lugosi movie called The Invisible Ghost. That is my one movie that I consider it's so bad it's good. Other than that, I don't classify movies in that way. No, Horizon is the redeeming aspect of the movie is that it's so bad, it's kind of interesting to think about why it's bad. But that doesn't make it a good movie. That does not make it a good experience. There's no diamond in the rough to kind of uncover here. And look, I'm interested in this movie. Despite me thinking this movie is bad, I kind of want to go see part 2. So, hey, well done, Kevin Costner. You made me want to go approach number 2 with some morbid curiosity. I'm hoping that part 2, part 3, and maybe part 4, I don't know how many parts it's going to be. I'm hoping that they're going to be good. But I don't expect them to be. I expect it to be kind of more of the same. More just, it's a mediocre television show. Probably would have worked better on TV. But I think I've gone on for long enough. Look, if you like talking about cinema or thinking about what makes a good and bad movie, you might find something worthwhile here to think about. But, if you only spend your money wisely when going to the cinema, I don't think this is one to go spend your money on. Only do it if you don't mind bad movies. But other than that, I think that's all I have to say about it. But look, if you disagree and you want to mention in the comments that, hey, I liked these aspects, if you want to agree or disagree with me, please put them down below in the comments. Please disagree with me. If you think it was good, let me know. And I'd love to talk about it with you. But, I think that's all for now on this movie. Moving forward, just again, this channel, it's Booktube, but every once in a while we're going to talk about movies. So, as I watch more Westerns, maybe I'll make another video on a good Western as I watch more of them. But look, that's all for now. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching. If you made it to the end, congratulations. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.